Welcome back to MicroVerse. In the previous lecture, we saw how microorganisms move from adhesion to invasion. But once microorganism has entered the host, it encounters another major obstacle, which is the host immune system. The host can recognize invading microorganism, recruit phagocytic cells, activate complement, and mount both innate and adaptive immune responses. So, successful infection requires more than simply entering the host. The microorganism must also be able to survive these defenses. This brings us to today's question: how do microorganisms evade host defenses? So, let's see what is the immune evasion. So, immune evasion refers to the mechanism by which microorganisms avoid, resist, or interfere with the host immune response. The purpose is not necessarily to completely stop immunity. Even partial evasion may allow the microorganism enough time to multiply and establish infection. So the basic idea is host defense means microbial evasion and survive. It's survival. So first strategy is to make recognition more difficult. The immune system needs to recognize microbial structure before it can respond effectively. Some microorganisms can alter their surface molecule or vary their antigens, making recognition by pre-existing antibodies more difficult. This phenomenon is known as antigenic variations. A classical example is Neisseria gonorrhea, which can undergo antigenic variation of its period. So the microorganism essentially changes the molecular features that the immune system is trying to recognize. Second one is avoiding phagocytosis. So another important defense mechanism is phagocytosis. Neutrophils and macrophages can recognize, engulf, and destroy microorganisms. Some pathogens have developed mechanisms that make this process more difficult. An important example is the polysaccharide capsule. The capsule can interfere with effective opsonization and phagocytic uptake. Encapsulated organisms such as Streptococcus pneumoniae, therefore, have an important advantage against host phagocytic defenses. So remember, capsule reduce the phagocytosis. Third mechanism is surviving inside the host cell. Some microorganisms take immune evasion one step further. Instead of remaining outside immune cells, they can survive within the host cell. This can provide relatively protected environment where the microorganism is less exposed to some extracellular immune mechanism. A classic example of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It can survive within macrophages by interfering with the normal intracellular killing mechanism, including processes involved in phagosomes maturation and phagolysosome formation. This gives us an important principle. A cell that normally kills microorganisms can sometimes become a site of microbial persistence. The next fourth mechanism is evading complement. The complement system is another major host defense mechanism. Complement can promote opsonization, recruit inflammatory cells, and for susceptible organisms contribute to direct microbial killing through the membrane attack complex. Microorganisms can interfere with the complement at different stages. They may prevent effective complement deposition, degrade or interfere with complement components, then recruit host complement regulatory proteins, modify their surface to become less susceptible to complement attack. Again, the objective is the same: avoid elimination and remain viable within the host. The fifth mechanism is interfering with the immune response. So some microorganisms can directly modify immune signaling. They may interfere with cytokines, chemokines, immune cell activation, or antibody mediated responses. This is particularly important in pathogens that establish persistent or chronic infections. Therefore, immune evasion is not simply about hiding. Some microorganisms completely manipulate the host immune response, create conditions that favor their own survival. Putting the mechanism together, let's bring this mechanism together. A microorganism may avoid recognition, then resist phagocytosis, then survive inside the cells, next resist complement, and then modify immune responses. This mechanism can act individually or together. The exact strategy depends on microorganism and the host environment. Why is this clinically important? Immune evasions helps explain why some infections are persistent, recurrent, or chronic. If pathogen can avoid efficient immune clearance, it has more opportunity to survive and multiply. This can contribute to prolonged infections and, depending on the pathogen, continue transmission or recurrence. This is also why understanding immune evasion mechanism is important when developing vaccines, antimicrobial therapies, and other strategies for infection control. So, if I ask what is immune evasion, the answer is the ability of microorganism to avoid, resist, or interfere with host immune defenses, allowing survival and persistence within the host. So remember four high-yield examples. First, capsules, which inhibits the phagocytosis. Then antigenic variations, which avoids recognition. Then example of tuberculosis, which is intracellular survival. And the complement interference means increase the survival. Then here I give one memory trick, escape to survive. So E stands for evade recognition, S stands for survive phagocytosis, C stands for counter complement, A stands for alter antigens, P stands for persist inside the host, and E stands for evade immune killing. So you don't need to memorize every mechanism separately if you remember the central idea, which is escape, survive, multiply, at last cause disease. So today's question was, how do microorganisms evade host defenses? They can avoid immune recognition, resist phagocytosis, survive inside a host cell, interfere with complement, and modify immune responses. The important point is that immune evasion is another major component of a microbial virulence. So we have now followed the major early stages of a microbial pathogenesis: adhesion, invasion, and immune evasion. But microorganisms don't cause disease simply by surviving. They must ultimately damage the host. So our next question is, how do microorganisms produce tissue damage and disease? That will take us to the next major concept, microbial toxins and other mechanism of a host attack. So thank you for the learning with MicroVerse. Keep learning, keep growing, and let's master microbiology, one concept at a time.